Today we built this. Hi friends, this is CC and welcome to Hobby Hands. In this vlog, we're going to build this, which is the Airfix, and it's a 1/72 scale model of the Westland Wessex HC.2. So the HC2 entered the Royal Air Force service in 1964. It's a helicopter with a bit of history. And the Airfix model here is a very recent release, about a month ago. And I got this model about 2 weeks ago. And here it is now. So the model number is A04068. Well friends, very excited to build this very new model. And well, let's get started. First, let's see what's inside the box. So the first thing we'll see is the instruction manual. It's in color. It's quite a thick instruction manual, quite a few pages there, and looks like there's a lot of steps. I like this new Airfix instruction manual because it's got the part that we are building. It's highlighted in color so that you know where the part is meant to fit. So there's a lot of steps, but each step is quite neatly displayed and it's not too cluttered. So it looks like the helicopter can be built either in extended rotor blades or folded rotor blades. There's 3 versions that you can build. I will probably build this 3rd version here, which is based in Hong Kong in 1978. This one is Uruguay in the year 2000. And this one is the Royal Air Force Training School. And that was in 1995. Okay, this is the decal sheet. It's a very full decal sheet. Lots of little stencils. I'll be just doing the Royal Air Force one. There will be some common stencil decals. But that's the bottom one, is the one that I'm going to do. But that's the one that's based in Hong Kong. Let's look at the parts now. Quite a few sprues in this box. So this first sprue here contains that looks like the tail bits. And then the body parts, so that's part of the fuselage. That's probably the cabin floor on the deck. A lot of seats there. Those are the bench seats. That's part of the tail. The second sprue here contains lots of tiny parts. That's the tail rotor. That's part of the engine cover, I think. And that's a door. Molding is very nice, very crisp. No flash. And no ejector pin marks, or if there are any ejector pin marks, they're in places where it's not visible. And this screw here contains the blades. So there's 4 rotor blades in use, and the other 4 are for the folded version. There is also a droop actually molded into the rotor blades, which is very nice. So the straight blades will be for the folded version, and that one with the droop will be for the normal flying version. This sprue here contains more body parts, some wheels and some interior parts. And this sprue here contains lots and lots of tiny parts. And this is the main sprue here, which contains the 2 fuselage halves. Molding is really nice, very crisp, recessed panel lines. And they're quite deep actually, the recessed panel lines. And bits of the nose, very nice. And this last sprue here is the clear parts. I won't take it out of the bag at the moment, but it looks like it's very clear and it's a lot of detail on the canopy. Nice. There you go friends, I'm very excited. Let's start building. So you're looking at the other side, which is the interior of the fuselage. Quite nice details. There's some interior detail. We'll probably have to build this with the door open. The first thing I'll do is I'll cut out the big fuselage parts. And what I want to do is to just check the panel lines. I might actually just run the scriber through the panel lines to deepen it a little bit. So that's what we'll do, and we'll scribe to make the panel lines a little bit deeper. Alright, so now we're going to do this first page here, which will be the cabin floor, or the cabin area, and probably bits of the cockpit as well. Alright, so the first thing I do is it asks us to do a little hole, which I've done. I'm now putting the cabin floor and the fuselage part together. Here you can see that I've actually painted all the interior parts already, for the seats, the roof, the interior parts, the floor, bulkheads. Colors are sprayed on. Here I'm actually putting clear gloss varnish onto the interior parts. There you go. Now it's all nice and shiny, so time to do some wash. I just use a black wash. With the interior of the fuselage, I do the same thing. There's a lot of little ribs there, which I then run the aniline wash along those lines, along those ribs. Alright, next thing I do is get a bit of silver, and I dry brush the silver onto the instrument panels, the knobs and all the raised details. Get a bit of a dry brush in silver, after which I run black wash over, so that when I clean up the wash, the silver knobs and all that will start to come out. And here I'm actually starting to clean the panel line wash, and I do that with a cotton bud and some enamel thinner. If you use enough gloss clear varnish, this part is actually quite easy and you get nice clean panel lines. The rib details start to stand out. Alright, now that all the panel line wash has been cleaned up, the next thing I'm doing is using weathering paints like that. So I use weathering paints and I just put a bit more color into the interior parts. I'll use some grey, some yellow, some green. Mix it up and enjoy the fun. Just make it more colorful. I'd even use some white, so that and I run the white across like that, it picks out the ribs, the raised ribs. This is the cabin floor, and I'm again using the weathering paint to make it look dirty and used. So using some sort of like a soot color. And some sand colors. Cabin floor looks nice and dirty now. This is the ceiling of the cabin. You can see it's actually got it's meant to be soundproof material, and it's actually got a lot of little bumps. So to make the bumps stand out, what I do is run the light weathering paint, like that yellow color, lightly over the top, so that the bumps then stand out. I'll do a bit of white as well, but just very, very lightly over the top, over the surface. There you can see the bumps actually appear. So these are the seats for the Wessex. From what I can see from reference material, they seem to be made up of some kind of fabric, and then there's some sort of soft straps that tie to the rod up there. So what I need to do is now to paint the straps there so that they look separate from the actual rod. I've used some wash there already, so you can see that there's some dark lines there. So I'm just using a bit of light grey weathering paint and just run it lightly over the top of the straps. There's a bit of ejector pin marks here, but they shouldn't be visible once they're installed inside the helicopter. Alright, so just doing the pilot seats and the bulkheads. This part of the bulkhead also has that soundproof material, again a lot of little bumps, so running some white like that will make the little bumps stand out. What we're doing here now is using some white paint. I do a bit of a dry brush over the interior parts, so it makes all those raised details come to life. Those ribs on the inside of the fuselage, they too need a bit of a dry brush there, and then they start to stand out. This step here, I'm actually taking all the clear parts and dipping it into floor polish. Make those clear plastic parts look like glass. So dip and then shake off the excess, and then any remaining material on the plastic part, we just blot it out on a kitchen towel to get rid of as much of the material, or blot off as much of the material as possible. And then put it into a little box. And that should keep the dust away. Alright, let's start to assemble the cabin. The first thing we're going to do is to stick the bench seats onto the cabin floor. So they fit nicely. There's actually little holes in the cabin floor for the legs of the bench seats to go into. And that big long one goes on. We'll also start to assemble the bulkheads here. The rear bulkhead and the front bulkhead of the cabin. Alright, this step we're actually building the cockpit. So firstly is the bulkhead for the cockpit, and we start to stick instrument panels, the seats, after that we'll stick the bulkhead into one half of the fuselage. It's very close fitting, so it's pretty much quite tight. You just have to do it carefully and do a bit of dry fitting as well as you go along. Okay, we now give all the interior parts here a flat, clear varnish. Right, we're ready to actually pop the two halves of the fuselage together. And so what we do firstly is stick some windows in. I try not to get any fingerprints onto the clear pieces, so that's why I've got a glove on. You can see that the window pieces are actually quite flush against the side of the aircraft. We're now going to install the cabin into the fuselage half. Again, the fitting is amazing, so awesome. No gaps. Alright, what I'm doing here is actually just painting some lights onto the ceiling of the cabin. And now we're gluing the ceiling of the cabin into the aircraft. So that we don't dirty the clear pieces, at this stage I put masking tape over the windows. For a sharp knife, then we just cut along the frame of the window. Now, this window here is actually like a little bubble. It's got a bump that sticks out. Firstly, we put the masking tape, and then with a toothpick and a cotton bud, we squeeze out all the bubbles. Alright, this covers only one half of the window, and then we put another piece on the other half of the window. Let the two masking tape pieces meet in the middle. And the next thing we do is stick one piece over the attached masking tape. This is to cover up the gap between the two pieces that we put on before. And to finish off, we put some masking fluid just to make sure that there's no gaps in between the tapes. Otherwise, paint might seep in. Guess what? It's time to seal the two fuselage halves together. We hold the two pieces with masking tape, and then we just put glue. For the moment, we also temporarily install the doors. And we'll build the nose as well. There you go. And that's just a dry fit of the nose. And the tail. We'll also build the tail. What I'm doing here is using a putty to make the joint lines between the fuselage halves disappear. Once the putty is dry, then I use a sanding stick and sand it away. As you can see here, there's no joint lines anymore. Time to install the canopy. But firstly, we need to install some instrument panels into the front canopy. The instrument panels are at the top of the canopy on the inside. And before we install the canopy onto the helicopter, we paint the frame with a bit of black. And then we install the canopy. Again, the fit is really nice. We now put some tissue paper inside the body of the aircraft, and then we seal the doors again. Again, it's just a temporary seal. We temporarily glue the door onto the aircraft, as well as the two sliding doors for the pilots. After that, we start to mask the remaining clear pieces. And there we go, that's all the mask up canopy. So the next thing that we'll do is spray the exposed areas of the canopy with the interior grey color. After which we give the helicopter a pre-shading. And I do that in black and white, and you can see from here, there's the pre-shaded model. Alright, time to paint the base colors on. So firstly I'll paint the grey color, and after that I'll use some masking, like what I'm doing here, to mask up the model so that I can paint the camouflage onto the body. I could do it freehand, but yeah, might as well use the masking tape. The camouflage is now complete, so we need to paint the underside of the fuselage. And it's in a black color. So what we do is we mask off the rest of the heli so that the overspray doesn't go onto the camouflage that we've already done. So the instructions call for a black underside. I prefer to use the NATO black, which is like a very, very dark green. And done. So you can see the underside is now painted. Time to remove the masking. I'm very happy with the results. So the next thing that we'll do is give the whole helicopter a clear gloss varnish. After which, when the varnish is dry, we run panel line wash over the entire model. With the lighter colors at the top side, we use a black panel line wash, and with the dark underside, we use a light grey panel line wash. Don't forget also to give the rotor blades a wash. After which we will clean up the excess wash with a cotton bud and some enamel thinner. And that's what we're doing here. Okay, decal time. A lot of decals to go on, so this is going to take a little bit of time. I'll just show you one or two decals. Now, Airfix decals are actually very thin, so work carefully with this. Alright, all the decals are on. I've actually given the whole helicopter as well another coat of clear gloss varnish to protect the decals. Now it's time to assemble all the parts together. So the final model is nearly ready. So we'll assemble the exhaust pipes, the two big ones near the nose and a lot of little ones at the bottom of the helicopter. And after that we'll also assemble the landing gear legs or struts. The unusual design for a strut, but if you are careful it should fit nicely and it should hold the weight. Alright, we'll put on the tires and wheels, including the rear wheel. Done. So what we're doing now is assembling the tail rotor. It's got very tiny parts, and be careful with that. And also the main rotor. We assemble the rotor blades to the rotor hub. We'll use that lines on the cutting mat to actually make sure that the blades are stuck on square. You get proper 90-degree angles. And done. So, time to do some weathering on the helicopter. So I use the weathering paint here to soften the lines between the camouflage colors. It works nicely. So you don't get a very sharp line, the line becomes much softer. So the first weathering paint that we use are the colors. So we've got grey, yellow and green. Again, have a bit of fun. Pop the colors in at random and make the helicopter nice and colorful. Put some yellow where the black is, or some yellow where the grey is. Now I'm using light gunmetal color. I'm weathering the exhaust pipes. The light gunmetal just give a bit of color to the exhaust. Also some titanium color. Right, now the exhaust I'm also going to use the burnt metal red and burnt metal blue colors just to simulate some heat marks on the exhaust. And after that I'm going to use oil stains and give the helicopter some oil stains near where I think the engine hatches are. putting soot weathering on the helicopter near where the exhaust is. With the helicopter blades, I'll use maybe a yellow or light grey color to make the ridges on the helicopter blades stand out. As you can see, once you run that weathering paint over, the ridges come out. With the tail rotor, it's just a matter of putting in some light gunmetal color or silver, again just to give it a little bit of color. I now use silver to do a quick dry brush of the grills and parts of the body. Followed by a grey color, and I dry brush mostly on the black parts of the aircraft. Followed by white. I'll dry brush with some white. Okay, done. So the next step is to actually make some stretch sprue, so I'm doing here. And the stretch sprue is to be attached between the two posts there. I believe these are antenna. So I'll just do 2 lines. And after that I paint the antenna a metallic grey color. Right, what I like to do is where the decals actually sit on top of a panel line, I like to run a sharp blade over the decal and cut the decal where the panel line is. This helps the panel line to show up from underneath the decal. Okay, all done. So after that, I give the whole helicopter another coat of gloss clear varnish, followed by a flat clear varnish. As you can see, the helicopter is now nice and flat. So what I'm doing next is just removing the window masking. Do this carefully with a sharp blade. You can see the windows are really shiny. Alright, then I have to remove the doors, or the main door, and the 2 little pilot doors. And I'll stick them back on, but in an open position this time. That goes for the pilot doors as well. There's a lot of details on the interior of the aircraft or the interior of the helicopter, and we build it with open doors so that we can actually show off the interior details. And last bit that we need to attach are the 2 rotor blades, the main and the tail rotor blade. I won't stick the main rotor blade on so that I can take it off if I need to, and I put it in my display cabinet. There we go. Now the model is complete. Here we are posing on the helipad. There you go, friends. The Wessex is all done. The nice camouflage colors. Top view, side view, and then the bottom view. Oops. I didn't stick the main rotor blade on. Final thoughts on this aircraft. It is an amazing model. Nice new crisp molding. The parts fit well. The panel lines are very nicely molded. And there's a lot of detail on the surface of this helicopter. There's a fair bit of tiny parts, so just be very careful when you're building this aircraft. Again, the fit is like really great on this model. It's awesome. The interior details look really nice. The model actually feels quite heavy because of a lot of parts on the interior. There's a cockpit, fair bit of details in there as well. Just go a little close up so you can see the instrument panel. And the antenna on the side. And the wheels and tires actually come with a flat spot to simulate the weight of the helicopter on the tires. Amazing. And there's also a droop in the rotor blades. And the bottom of the aircraft. Very detailed and very busy. Lots of little bits and pieces. And once you paint and highlight them, they look really amazing. Do a bit of close-ups here. The rotor head, really detailed and really nice. And the canopy, very shiny canopy. There's the open door for the pilots. And that's the instrument panel that you can see. And just put a little torch there so you can see it better. Very detailed instrument panel. And look at the amount of detail on the body of the aircraft. There's the exhaust there. And that's the wheel or the landing gear, the flat spot. I'll just show you the decals and the amount of detail on the body. Incredible. The underside of the helicopter. The seats on the inside of the cabin. The nose of the helicopter. And the other side. The tail rotor. There you go. So what I want to share with you here is, you can see this is the Wessex that we've just built. Beautiful. That's the Airfix Wessex. And what I wanted to show you is this as well. About 6 months ago I built this one, which is a matchbox Wessex in the same scale, 1/72nd scale, and it's a Wessex for the Royal Navy. The matchbox kit, which is on the right of the screen, is not very detailed. I had to scribe panel lines. It didn't have recessed panel lines. Also, because of the age of the kit, the decals actually were not quite usable, so a lot of them collapsed. But really nice. Check out the vlog on my channel from about 6 months ago, and that's the Matchbox Wessex. Okay friends, hope you enjoyed that vlog. Please subscribe to my channel, and please give me a like. Please share the vlog with your family and friends, and please leave me some comments below, and please give me some hype points. Thank you for watching, and as always, this is CC wishing you well. We'll see you again the next time.